Hello everybody, my name is Eric, and really, if I'm being honest, the intro to this video should be thank you everybody, my name is Eric. We did it. So for those of you who don't know, because of course, when YouTube gives you a strike, they also cut off your ability to post any content, so I was not able, unless you followed my X, my Blue Sky, or you were in the Discord, we did talk about it on all of those, you may not have seen this, but if you were on X, I think we briefly became the top trending topic, which is insane. Like, that's... So here's what happened. So I posted this. Now, as people who watch this channel know, I've had issues with videos getting taken down for silly reasons. It all started last year with this video, which ultimately gave me a warning. This video, by the way, Discord Grabber, that hacks the hackers, is back up as well, so you can go watch that. This one got taken down. I couldn't figure out why. Nobody would tell me why, but that one was like the biggest mystery to me. So then we went on. Then I had another video taken down. That one's also actually back up. That was when we were checking download ads. And there were a few seconds of that video where, because we were showing an unlicensed anime streaming site to demonstrate the malicious ad. And the problem I have with this is the reason the video got taken down was for promoting piracy. That was like the vague reason. I don't think a video showing me going to a site that might contain pirated content to download malware is in any, and ultimately YouTube eventually agreed with me, that's not a promotion of piracy. It's actually the opposite. So that was one instance. Then there was a video I made earlier this year, and that one was similar to the one. This one actually isn't back up yet, but I think it will be, where I made a similar video, but I made sure to avoid any sketchy streaming sites, and that was taken down for the same reason. I believe that's because it had the word free download in the title, although I was talking about websites like cnetdownload.com, which share freeware that is legally accessible for free, not piracy of software. But I think that's what happened with that one. But then what happened, then I had a reverse engineering intro video I did, which was basically... it was called How to Word I'm Not Going to Repeat Software That You Can Guess, given we're talking about piracy. I've told them they haven't reinstated that one yet. They're going to look into that. Now, that one I'm not 100% sure about. My point of view, functionally, that was me let's playing crackmes, and I was showing how to use some basic reverse engineering tools, and I emphasized the word basic because that's what that video was. Here's something you can get started with. If you want to get good at reverse engineering, or for any reason, ethical reasons, it's a great employable skill that companies care about. Ultimately, the only way you're going to get good at that is by doing it. You know, you can watch a YouTube video to figure out the basics, and that's what I was doing. Maybe you watch that video and you think, okay, this is something I care about, now I'm going to go do that, because maybe you didn't even know it was possible. That's the ultimate goal of making a video like that. It's education. It's not anything nefarious. So that was the other video. That got taken down this summer, actually, while I was at DEF CON. I was annoyed, but because I was, of course, really busy with DEF CON, I didn't really have the energy to, like, go full fight mode. But then that brings you to this one. And as a result, I should point out, right, this one was a warning. First video get taken down, warning. If you get another video taken down in 90 days, the expiration period is paused until that expires. So that also slowed things down. So then we got this one. And this one was patently absurd, and and that's how this got fixed. Ultimate videos up on my channel, so you can watch it. Not going to show clips from here just in case it flags something AI wise. The video, in case the title isn't super clear, the video explained that rootkits are a type of cybersecurity threat that exists. I tried a few on a malware sandbox that actually sponsored the video. Shout out to them as well. Great company, you know, I work with them a lot. They've been incredibly supportive. They even, when this happened, they reached out to me and said, is there anything we can do to help? You know, we're talking about harmful or dangerous. Well, that made everything safer, because when you're doing that on a sandbox, right, you're not taking risk on your local infrastructure. And ultimately, we talked about removal. There was not a word in that video about how you can make a rootkit. Not a word. One thing I did show, popular tool x64 debug. I use it a lot. Free open source software. Every malware analyst, if you want to get into malware analysis, you're going to use that. It showed that it had a feature that was a bit rootkit-like. You're going to have to watch that video. I just don't want to risk repeating anything that could cause more problems. I think that could have been it, but ultimately, they did point out. But here's the crazy. So we post this, and I got a decent amount of attention, and I was really grateful for that because I thought, okay, this is actually going to get fixed. So this is the response YouTube. So first of all, YouTube responded with this, and that was fair. The appeal hadn't yet been denied. I tell them the appeal got denied, and at this point, when I post that, before this all blew up, this had maybe 10 likes, and they actually decided, they wanted to help out, so they actually sent it for another look. And I did want to say at this point, and I know people are going to rag them, a lot of people at the company YouTube, I could see ragging. There's clearly a lot of problems. I believe people working on this account, the Team YouTube account, are doing the best they can. I believe they're, despite that being a totally public thing, they have done a lot more. I've tried the private creator support you get when you're monetizing creator. That is totally unhelpful. I can rag those people, but these guys, I believe they really try to help. And ultimately, I'm sure there's like limits of what they can do when something doesn't get a lot of attention. But the people running this account, I do have to give credit to. I don't think they're a part of the problem. I think the fact that to get any kind of support, even when you have hundreds of thousands, or as I'm going to get into in this video, millions of subscribers, relies on going through a different social platform and getting attention is ridiculous. But that is not the people running this account's problem. That is the rest of the company's problem. So I say appreciate it. And there was I think this kind of became satirical after this, but no, this was not satire. I really did, because they were going to help me. Now they say this. At this point, I didn't know what was going to happen. I think I may have said at the intro of this video, but I really thought, okay, you know what? I was like almost down to record like I give up video. And I wasn't going to delete my channel, but I was just going to be like, I'm not going to do this as like a semi full-time, like part-time serious thing anymore. That's just not going to work. I'm going to post videos when I have something really important to say, and that's going to be it. And that's what I was going to do. And thank you so much. VX Underground, legendary Malware DB, came in clutch with a cat picture. And this is the cat picture that saved my channel. And then this account, which I've also worked with a bit, they did me solid. They actually, because I re-uploaded my video onto X, they reposted my video and quoted that. And that just went utterly viral. That got tens of thousands of likes. And that ultimately, between these two, I believe really got the ball rolling. We got to the top of trending, and that led to, I believe it's called like the creator outreach or scaled team, then gets to see this and looks at it and is like, look, the entire cybersecurity community is telling us that this video is fine. We got to put this back up. And that's what happened. That's what happened at the end of the day. Now they also, and I'll show you what they said publicly. I'm not going to show DMs because if they wanted it to be private, I'm going to let them be private. I will tell you, and they did really emphasize that. They apologized for each video they'd taken down. And they said they were open to asking questions, which I think I'm fine to tell you that. And I will, and I might even send them like a preview of this video just in case there's anything. There's one other thing on the YouTube side I did want to talk about. That's positive before we're going to get into the criticisms, because yes, there are going to be some. Here it is. And I saw this because Deep Humor, which is another guy, along with Enderman and Brody Fox, the Yumama guy, who really helped get this going. I saw this. YouTube is going to tell you, and I actually really, really like this. A lot of this is being done by AI, and the benefit of that is it's cheap. They can tell us before we publish video and get a strike, so that we can avoid. And I really hope this rolls out. I don't know if I can get early access, but they were going to expand this experiment. I don't know if I can get invited to that, but I think this is an incredible step in the right direction. All right, so now that we've talked about what happened, my situation, I wanted to talk more broadly about sort of feedback, what I think needs to change YouTube-wise. But first, I did want to throw a bit of context in here, and that's why we're going to be looking at this guy. And no specific call out of this specific person. This is just a guy who promotes this business model that I happen to know about. There are many others. And actually, I did want to say, while I don't endorse, and I mean, this actually, at least what he was doing in his older videos, I think he has actually gone more legit, is quite illegal. I do want to at least give Jordan here some credit for being honest, because there are other channels that are fundamentally promoting the same business model that Jordan is, or was at least, and they do it under very false pretenses. Like, they will say that they're making compilation of Creative Commons videos, and then when you buy the course, which is usually really expensive, it'll be revealed that no, actually, you're going and you're stealing content from either independent creators or TV, and they'll even have methods of like how you can edit it to not get caught. And a lot of people kind of get uncomfortable as they think, this feels wrong. You said Creative Commons videos, not creators common videos. People have been talking a lot, in addition to what's happened in tech, which I think is a much more systemic problem, the spam terminations. And there have definitely been false positives, but there is also an incredible amount of spam. And a lot of that comes down to these kind of business models. And nowadays, this is oftentimes very lazy AI generated content. I actually made a video talking about this a few months ago with fake news videos, fake true crime, where they made up the story through an AI voiceover and an AI generated image, and oftentimes would also incite racial tensions. Well, historically, what they used to do, and they have changed the rules to make this more difficult. Like, we can go to one of his most popular videos. Okay, so here's and this is a pretty good explanation of what a lot of spammy content is. Now, this guy, what he's going to go on and say is, you don't have to make videos. You can actually just steal other people's videos. Have you ever thought about that? You don't have to do any work.
I say YouTube, this is a different type of formula where you do not make your own videos. You do not need a microphone, a camera, fancy lighting. You do not need a fast computer with a lot of memory. And the best part is you don't have to spend any use all of that money that I got from YouTube and then move that over to Shopify to begin using that little bit of kickstart to get your income to actually spend on Facebook.
And then he's saying, like, then you could start drop shipping with that, apparently.
But so here's a good example.
So here's a great business model. You can just take content and there you go. So I think, and it's not to say that everyone getting spam terminated is rightly being terminated. I actually believe a substantial number, probably thousands, are being wrongly terminated. And there's still a consistent problem of not really getting an appeal through. But there is also, unfortunately, a lot of spam. And this guy had a more basic system that I think YouTube mostly worked out with the copyright match tool. Not easy to steal content anymore. Now, a lot of it's AI. I saw this, I'm just going to call this, I just called this a plagiarism as a service platform, because I think that's what it is. Because what's essentially happening here is this kind of a service, and I'm going to blur the name, partially because it might even violate YouTube's TOS to promote this, and I'm not promoting this. I don't have any beef with this specific guy, but I do think this kind of thing is clearly a problem. And I think that factors in. So now let's talk about where I think there are real problems. There is one other thing I wanted to quickly say on the subject of spam terminations. And that is, like, for example, there's a guy called Neil, and I've seen him on X, and I think YouTube's probably going to respond to him because he's gotten quite a bit of engagement. But there are cases where I think these people may have violated the spam policy. And just to be clear, I'm not specifically saying this guy has or hasn't. I haven't watched his content. I don't really know what kind of videos he made, so I actually can't tell you. I know he had a theory about something he might have done in a short that might have been seen as spammy. And there were some other ones, like one guy who actually was commenting on one of my videos mentioned one of the guys who was posting about his channel had 14 channels, one of which was a bizarre Roblox Labubu roleplay. And I'm not sure. Like, I think if you have 16 YouTube channels, that does actually, to me, sound like they're, unless you have a big team that's actually creating those videos, that sounds like there might be some potential spamming going on there. See, and it would be good if there could be a strike or some sort of early warning rather than just outright termination for cases where this isn't some out of control bot farm, but this is a single guy who maybe didn't fully understand the policy, saw someone else doing something, thought it was okay. I would like to see them get some sort of negative feedback on that before they just get an instant ban. Now, YouTube told me after all of this that they're going to try and, as they put it, send feedback to the review team. Now, I hope they really go through this and really, I think, outright need to rework this section of policy. And first of all, I do know what they mean, but separating hacking content, piracy content, from dangerous stunts, to me that seems like a substantially different policy. And maybe they could use, because for monetization they have encourages dishonest behavior. I think that would just be so much clearer to people, so at least they on some level understand what the problem with the content they're making is. But I do think there's a general problem with these policies. That is, there's no, for all the other policies YouTube has, they give you examples of what's good and bad. There's nothing like that here. And it seems like, given, I do believe that at least twice and possibly 3 times, an actual person, and I believe this is due to bad instructions, not bad people, did review the content in question and decided it violated the policy. That's not, it may be more difficult for people who are not experienced with cybersecurity to tell the difference. And it may also be different if they're not given a ton of guidelines. Like, this is incredibly vague. This could be any technique that could be used for any kind of offensive cyber, or it could be only the most egregious stuff that every reasonable person would agree should be taken down. And the same here. Now, once again, this is common sense. The problem is, what does showing viewers how to mean? Does that mean promoting it and telling them how to do it? Does it mean it ends up being vaguely mentioned in the video as a part of a different narrative, which is what my removed videos were? Is it like a more documentary focused, like historically, this is how this happened? I think the policies are clearly intended to only cover the worst cases, but I think they're going to have to do more. And I believe in this specific sub area, the false positive rate is very high. I think with spam, it's probably about, let's say, between 1 in 1,000 and 1 in 100. In this, I think it could be as much as 50% or higher. So I do hope we're going to see change with tech content. And some of it just made no sense, like Cyber CPU Tech. His video was just installing Windows with the local account. That is not hacking of any variety. And I don't comprehend how that's happening. And I think the level of review, I believe, as I said, that the reviews were done by people, but I do not believe they were careful. And I believe at the scale that YouTube operates, it's essentially impossible to give a careful review. A careful review takes a substantial amount of time, not 30 seconds. Clearly, the final reviews that got all of the videos reinstated, those were careful, but that's not scalable. So I think there either needs to be a rethink on policies that cannot be determined in the level of time. Either reviewers for these specific policies get more time, they come up with some technology to help them avoid misflags. Interestingly, Gemini, Google's AI, was able to tell me that all of those videos did not violate the policy. So maybe there's a way with that technology that could be an assist. Though, of course, we know AI can make mistakes, but it can also help with mistakes. So maybe there's a factor there. Maybe, and I don't know, this would be a more complicated discussion, policies that cannot be well enforced. And these are not essential policies. These are not the ones that the platform couldn't exist without. Maybe policies that can't be reliably enforced just should be repealed. I don't know. I mean, there's obviously a copyright issue with this, but then that's a legal issue between the uploader. So somewhere in there, I think something like that has to happen. Now, there's another category of content that I've seen that seems to be having the same issue, so I thought I would talk about that. And that is finance content. Specifically, it seems like anything that makes a make money claim. And there is a lot of terrible, just look at what I showed you just a few minutes ago, make money content. And I think a crackdown on that is a good thing. In fact, I have been feeling that way for years, but it has to be accurate. You have to be getting rid of the frauds and not taking down the real players. And what I've seen so far, I'm not convinced is doing that effectively. I saw one podcaster who, I think it was something like flipping trucks for money, like pickup trucks. And in the title, he had how much money he'd made doing it. And that seemed to flick something where a dollar amount claim led to a removal saying that it was dangerous and fraudulent, and it said something about Ponzi and pyramid schemes. This isn't even an investment. Now, another case I saw was with this guy, Wayland Trades. He is a day trader, and specifically what he does is funded futures day trading. Now, I don't really recommend funded futures trading, but this guy is clearly able to make a lot of money doing it, and he was sharing how he was doing it. And YouTube, as far as I can tell, does not have a policy against funded futures or prop firms or any of that. nor did they have a policy against day trading videos. Now, I know enough about trading to watch this guy's videos, and I can be pretty comfortable saying, like, this guy, to me, I don't think he's a scammer. I think he's actually trying to make content. Now, of course, there's a lot of money in doing this, and he even showed his analytics somewhere on here. He's made like over $500,000 from AdSense and probably millions from affiliate revenue. But there's nothing wrong with that. If, like, unless there's going to be a policy against that, it seems like, again, there's a problem with how reliably and evenly this is being enforced. Because if we go to YouTube, we can see some of these might be reasonable, but clearly there's a bunch of stuff, and I don't think a lot of this, I think this guy's legit, but like a lot of this I don't think is any more reliable than what Patrick Wayland was going to tell you. So, and some of this looks quite absurd. So I don't know what's going on there. I just think that could be another area where there's... So to finish this off, what are we going to do? Well, I really hope, and I hope YouTube takes this feedback, and I hope there can be some improvements on the policy front. I am certainly going to try, when I see people who are like either doing tech or something that I understand, I can see there's a clear policy issue, I'm going to try to continue to help bring attention to that, as people have done for me. And I hope that the situation can get better. Another thing I think we can all agree on, YouTube support, and by that I mean the creator support thing that you get, just isn't very good. It doesn't matter what the issue is. It just feels like that is a frustrating experience, and you're just better off going to social media. And I would like to see that change. I would like to see effort put into making support better. Just a few years ago, it was a lot better. And I was a lot of a smaller channel back then, too. I had a video that was demonetized, and I thought it was demonetized wrongly. I went to support. They escalated it. Everything was fixed. I don't really understand why that seems to have changed so much in just the last few years. I don't think this is purely an AI issue, although I think that could be a factor. I think there's kind of a policy, and it's probably to do with these spammers, but you gotta figure out a way of making sure that creators are getting good support. Then you can deal with the scammers. But if you drive away creators, you lose a lot. So that's really, to me, the biggest. I mean, even in addition to not really helping with the policy issues, I asked the support team why my channel said that I couldn't get a silver play button, and they wouldn't tell me. Like, not even the answer was because of the strikes. So I should be able to now. And in fact, I had more luck reading the Help Center article, because they only gave me a short list that said your channel violates YouTube policies and/or laws. That's totally vague. But here is the exhaustive list. And what I don't understand is, surely they could have at least highlighted which one was the problem. That's not confidential, I don't think. Because I know I have 100,000 subscribers, channel is active, channel isn't terminated, I'm not scamming people, my content is original. So just being able to say it's this one would have at least given me an indication, so I wouldn't just be confused. But that's going to be all from me for now. Once again, huge thank you to everyone who helped share my post. Thank you to YouTube for ultimately fixing the problem. I'm going to try to make sure when I see people who are in a similar situation, I'm going to try and make sure that they can get some help. And I really hope this can be a turning point. I think YouTube is going to try and fix this. At least I hope so. So that's going to be all from me for now. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye.